welcome to Shop Talk, episode 14 with Jim and Ken. I'm Jim.
And I'm Ken.
Yeah, hello everyone. Today's topic is going to be subbands. We're going to talk about radio frequencies and the different subband categories. So Ken, why don't you start it off for us?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Jim. Yeah, this question comes up, so people might not even know what a subband is, and the idea is that in different frequency bands that the FCC allocates, in certain cases, the way that the transmitter-receiver spacings are and the actual width of the available spectrum that's allocated by the FCC might force us into a physical architecture which forces us essentially to provide radios in different subbands. That is, that we can't cover all of the frequency combinations that the FCC might allow in one hardware solution. There are some frequency bands that we can do that, so there aren't any subbands in certain frequencies, but in many of the frequency bands that the FCC offers for licensed radios, we do have to offer different subbands of these radios to accommodate all the different potential frequency pairs that are available. So with that in mind, I wanted to show you a little bit of how this goes down. So when you're doing a design in a radio, you're usually looking at a particular frequency band and maybe a particular frequency radio model, and you're working with an FCC coordinator, or we're helping you with that, and that all gets figured out as far as like what the performance is going to look like, what size the antennas are going to be, how high they are on the tower, and all that sort of information. When you're finally done, or when the FCC coordinator submits something into the FCC, that coordinator is going to submit for a particular frequency pair. That is a transmitter on one side, a transmitter on the opposite side, and then receive frequencies that are opposite of that on both ends. And that'll be a particular center frequency for the link. Now, that can come in different forms. They might be single pole radios, both transmitting on vertical pole, for example. It might be horizontal single pole radios. It might be dual pole radios, vertical and horizontal. It might be on the same center frequency, something we call XPIC. We'll cover that in a later topic. Or they might be on different frequencies on opposite poles. Whatever that is, the frequency coordinator is going to figure out the best frequency plan for you and submit that to the FCC. And I'm going to show you real quick what that looks like in a sample, what's called a preliminary coordination notice, of the documentation that would go to the FCC. So here's a snippet that I took out. And what this shows you is that this customer is using a radio. They've got a code for all of the manufacturer's radios. In our case, this is the WTM 4200 using the OMT. It's at 11 gigahertz. It's got an 80 megahertz wide channel. And in a single channel, it delivers 731 megabits. That's kind of like the magic code that this particular coordinator uses to identify this particular radio. What's important to know about this particular one, it's a 4200, and it's a dual core radio. It's an OMT model, which means it's a dual pole radio. And if you look down here at the frequency numbers, 11565 with an S at the bottom, what that means is the center frequency is going to be 11565 in this direction. The opposite side is going to transmit on 11075. They're both going to be dual pole. That's what the S stands for. If they were single pole, you'd see either a V or an H next to those numbers. And we know that it's 80 megahertz wide by the emission designator here under the equipment model. It's a lot of information, but it's really important stuff. Really what we're going to get to here is the center frequency and the channel bandwidth of 80 megahertz. So let's pop over real quick to our store. I'll show you that, and we're going to bring you back to here. Just give me 1 second. And here's a sample ordering page of an 11 gigahertz radio. Now, in most cases, 11 gigahertz for our radios can be covered in one of two subbands, what we call subband 1 and subband 2. But what you'll notice here is we actually offer 4 subbands, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The reasoning for that has to do with occasionally the way the FCC coordination works out is you get the kind of these odd frequency pairs that come up, and we wanted to have products that would accommodate all these unique combinations. So we do build the subband 3s and 4s, but you'll actually see if you pay attention to the store, the subband 3s, you can tell by the part numbers here, this is a subband 1, 11H1 is the high side of subband 1. Its partner is the 11L1, that's the low side of subband 1. You see subband 2, subband 3, and 4. And you'll notice over here, the subband 3 and 4, we don't hold those in stock. We basically build them to order. We ship them within a month of your ordering. Sometimes we'll have some in stock, but usually not. The other ones we're stocking pretty regularly. So usually subband 1 and subband 2 are going to fit in. These are all kind of specialized things. This is more to talk about the subbands itself. Here's the key. In this description, you'll see that subband 1 high covers this frequency range for the transmitter, and its partner covers this frequency range for the transmitter. Those are really important numbers. These are the edge frequency capabilities of this radio. This is not the center tuned frequencies. We don't know what channel bandwidth you've been assigned. We're going to show you what the edges are. Your channel has to fit inside that. So if you imagine your frequency edge is here and you've got an 80 megahertz wide channel, your center frequency has to be 40 megahertz away from the edge on either edge. So we were going to look for these numbers and we're going to compare them to the numbers on that document from the frequency coordinator. And we need to make sure that that center frequency fits inside this subband with at least 40 megahertz to spare on each side because it was an 80 megahertz wide channel. And then we want to check the other direction as well. So we had two frequencies, one on one side, one on the other. One was lower, one was higher. We want to look at the lower frequency and make sure that it fits inside this edge as well. That's where this all comes down. So you have to be careful because when we're doing a design, we're never talking about subbands. We're just talking about the frequency. When we do the FCC coordination, we're definitely talking about the frequency and the exact channel bandwidth. But then when it comes to ordering, we need to make sure that we've matched up the right radio to correspond to the specific frequencies that you were assigned. We'll help you with all this, but this is sort of where all the magic hits. Now we have a little tool over here. It says, do you wish to provide spot frequencies? If you know what your frequencies are, you can fit that into this table. Now this is a dual pole radio, so you choose the transmitter on one side, like the vertical side, say the horizontal side transmitter, because they might not be the same, and then what the receiver frequency is, and then what the channel bandwidth is, and it'll tell you these are the radios that fit that criteria. Now, you might actually get more than one choice. You might be told, hey, channel 1 and channel 3 meets that need. Then you want to flip those frequencies to the opposite side, so repaste them in here. Try the transmitter on the other frequency, the receiver in the other, and see what channels those line up with. And usually that's going to align you to one particular channel that meets both directions, or maybe two. And if you have a choice of more than two, maybe you choose the one that's in stock versus the one that's not in stock. Or maybe you have multiple links and you'd like to try to get all those links in the same subband for sparing purposes. Whatever that might be, you're always wanting to pay attention to these ranges that are stated here and make sure that your frequency fits inside that. So a half a bandwidth away from the edge is where all the magic happens. So that was what I wanted to show you basically during the design stage, the FCC coordination stage, and then the ordering stage. With that in mind, I'm going to pass it over to Jim, and we can cover a little bit what happens after you get your radios. So Jim, off to you.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Ken. Thanks for that great explanation. So after you get your radios, you're going to get at least two terminals, but you're going to need to be able to identify which one is the high side, which one is the low side. So you've already picked the subbands and they're in your possession. So I've got a radio terminal here, and if you notice on the side, we've got the sticker, and the sticker actually shows you again range of the subband. So it's going to show us the starting and ending. You want to make sure, again, your assigned frequencies match within the range of the radio, both the high side and the low side. Secondarily, once you get the radios powered up, and I'm going to switch over to my laptop here, and we'll log into the radio. You'll be able to, if you come to the radio configuration page and scroll down, you'll see again our transmit and receive frequencies. So if I hover over the input box for the, say, the transmit frequency, it's going to again display the minimum and maximum frequency that I can enter in here. Now, this is going to be based on the channel width that I've been assigned. So again, as you read through your FCC coordination document, it's going to tell you what the assigned channel width is. So for an 80 megahertz wide channel, the radio knows where my band edges are. So it's going to, again, allow me to show me the maximum that I can input in for an 80 megahertz wide channel and not fall outside the range of frequencies that the subband covers. So that's pretty much it as far as setting up the subbands and identifying the radios. You can either look on the sticker on the outside, or when you get logged in on the radio config page, it will again display what the radio is capable of covering for subbands.
Fantastic. There's one more thing I thought about,
Yeah.
and that is that sometimes we might be helping you put together a quotation in our store to give you a price on a full configuration of a link. If we don't know the specific frequencies that you are assigned, or maybe you haven't gone through that process yet, we may end up choosing sort of a random, subband one just as a default setting. And so you have to be a little bit careful, because sometimes you'll ask us to share that bomb with you or share that cart with you. And if you do that and you don't pay attention, you get assigned frequencies later and you haven't gone back to see, are those the right radios that match up to the frequencies that I got assigned or not? You could end up ordering the wrong radios. That's happened, by the way. So be careful. We usually warn you, like if somebody's doing that work for you, we'll send you an email and say, be super careful about the frequencies. Don't forget, blah, blah, blah. But, what happens? Everybody's in a hurry and it just kind of goes down the line. So be careful with that. Like I said, subband, some frequency bands don't have subbands at all. You don't have to worry about it. Others do. Others only have maybe 2. Some have 3. And there's just different ones. So you're always wanting to pay attention. If you ever have any questions at all, reach out to your Aviat technical resources, and we'll help guide you through that and make sure that you get the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's a wrap for this Shop Talk. Thanks for joining with us, and we'll see you on the next version of Shop Talk.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.